but it's Carmilla that I'm reading, and there's a dust jacket over there because I don't read with the dust jacket on at all. But most importantly, it just mentioned Utrecht. It says it is furnished in carved oak with large carved cabinets, and the chairs are cushioned with crimson Utrecht velvet. Utrecht velvet! What? I'm here to open my second part 2 of my 30 books in 30 days reading vlog. I am very excited to continue on with this challenge. You've actually seen a bit of my day already. I have been doing great on this challenge, and today is day 9 of the reading challenge. I have been working from home, which is why I haven't changed my jumper that has a bit of a stain on it, as you can tell. But I've mostly just been working and casually reading whenever I had a lunch break or a bit in the morning. So the book that I decided to start reading was Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. It's because I wanted to book with vampires. I'm not ready to say goodbye to spooky season and all the creepy reads that I possibly can get my hands on. I'm really loving vampires again at the moment. I always love vampires, but I was just certainly in the mood for it. This is the cult classic that inspired Dracula, and it's about lesbian vampires as far as I'm aware. And I read the first 50 pages, which actually puts me a third of the way in. And what I really particularly like about it is just sinking back into a classic writing style. If you were here in part 1, I've been reading middle grade, translated fiction, other books, but I just haven't read a classic in a very long time. So even though this is a shorter classic, it's just nice to kind of sink back into that writing style. This is quite a short book, so things do escalate quickly, but it's definitely about these two girls and their relationship to each other and how their friendship is forming, and mysterious things, mysterious unexplained deaths are happening all around her. But I can't wait to see a bit more about the vampirism element that I know is going to sneak into this one the way something slowly but surely does in gothic fiction. Your girl is ready to go to bed. But before I go to bed, I should talk you through what I just finished reading. So I just finished reading Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. I am just astounded by how much of this was really close to Dracula. Like, I know this is the cult classic that inspired Dracula, but there are so many elements of Dracula that are so obviously inspired by this book. So drawing those connections as someone who's a big fan of Dracula was a lot of fun, and I did really like this story. I think it's not as heavy on the queerness as you might expect it to be, but then if you think about it in the context of it being 1872 when this was written, it's pretty obvious about the romantic element to it. So that was also interesting to read about. I did like the vampire elements. I liked all of the hints of what was going on and how bizarre the people found it. I do think the ending kind of wrapped up very quickly. I do think that also happened in Dracula though, so there's something about that gothic pacing of everything builds up to a moment, then it crescendos, and I think Dracula did it better with there being suspense around this moment that it built up to, but it was still a very good read. I'm glad I read it. But in other news, I've also read to the halfway mark, or just under the halfway mark by about 5 pages, of Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Gottlieb, and I was reading this in the last vlog. It's about a therapist, and if you want to know more about what this book is about, go and watch the first video or wait for my wrap up. But I just want to tune in and say I am devouring this. I am loving it, and I've actually started to read it a bit slowly, and if I read something slowly, even when I'm in a challenge, it means that it's definitely one I want to savor and I'm thinking about, and I don't want to rush through it. I'm taking my time with this book, and I am appreciating how much it's making me think about things, how much I can like understand and see her reflections on both herself and her patients and the people around her. And I just think it's fascinating. Human psychology and the way that we react to our emotions in ways that are both expected and patterned is absolutely fascinating. I can't get enough of reading about human psychology and personalities and behaviors, and this book is just tickling everything that I'm interested in. and welcome to day 12 of the reading challenge. So in terms of life things, we've had lots and lots of stuff happen. I finally edited the baby shoot that I did for my sister and her partner, which I did back in the Gothtober vlogs. So these are some of my favorite pictures from that photo shoot. I'm very happy to be able to share some of them. So that happened. As well as that, I went to see the play Hamlet with my sisters. This was on stage. I really loved the book when I read it. The year that I read it, it was one of my favorite books that I read. I love everything to do with Shakespeare, so that makes sense, but it was also just such a beautifully written and moving story that focused and put priority on the woman in their narrative. But watching it on stage, it was such a disappointment. I think that's one of the worst things I've ever seen in theatre, which is not good at all, because I was very excited to see it, but it was just something that didn't translate to stage in any which way. I also think the acting itself was not good. Unfortunately, I was not a fan of the way that certain actors were portraying certain characters, especially Agnes, who is the main character. I didn't like how she was acting that role. But it was a nice time to catch up with all four of my sisters, and after that I went to the team bookmark party, which is like a Hachette imprint, and they are so lovely. Like, that team is one of the loveliest teams. They always supply me with really great young adult, like contemporary, but also sometimes fantasy books, and it was just so nice to be there. The drinks were good, the company was good, I got to like make some new friends, as well as I went with Kasha as my plus one, and Kasha is absolutely lovely. She is from the channel Kasha's Book Cemetery, but of course we don't live in the same country, so we don't get to hang out with her often, so it was just really nice to spend an evening chatting and chilling with her. Oh, and the last thing I did was I had an evening with friends. It was my friend's birthday and she just invited people over, and there was like drinks and food and dessert, and then we watched Bridesmaids, which came out many years ago, but it's a rom-com I'd never seen all the way through before. So I got to see that all the way through before for the first time, and I really loved it. It was the perfect balance of hilarious and comedy gold, but also a deeper stemming friendship focus, as well as the character's main working through her like own mental health barriers that she sets upon herself, and those three strands together were perfectly balanced to make a hilarious but also quite an emotive film, and I loved it. I also love things around weddings, so that satisfied me to no end, but it was just such a good evening, like laughing and talking about the film. I just had such a blast. So now let's talk about the books I've been reading, because we are on day 12, and I'm going to talk about the book that I finished first, and that is The Island of Whispers by Frances Hardinge. This is it almost feels like a fairy tale story about Milo, who is a young boy, and his dad is the ferryman for this island, and on this island the dead need to be brought manually to the afterlife. His dad is the person who does that. However, something happens to his dad and Milo is the one who has to do it himself, even though he never expected to have to do this role because he has an older brother. I gave this 5 stars and it became a new favorite because it was so beautiful. It talked about grief and it talked about the process of letting people go, but also the process of, I think there's a lot of folk books that focus on grief and they focus on the process of letting people go, letting them move on from your mind and from where they need to be into the next place. But this one took one step further. It did not only talk about the grieving process of what you lose or what other people lose, but it also goes to, well, now you've lost this person, now you've worked through your emotions of losing this person, what can you do next? And this one kind of touches on that, but it still manages to be magical. It still manages to have the fairy tale element to it, but a haunted fairy tale element to it. This one has ghosts. This one has weird, strange, whimsical elements to the story that, in a way that Frances Hardinge's books usually do. It's also illustrated by Emily Gravett, and I do think she did a fantastic job with choosing like the cool colors for the illustrations, and it just added to the serenity and the hauntingness that this book gave. I don't think I've done a very good job articulating how wonderful this was, but I hope I'll have it better together in my mind for my wrap up. But I just read this and I thought, what a treasure, what a beautiful book to be able to read with children who are working through grief, but also to be able to read as an adult just to process emotions. And there were certain lines in this where I was like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that. 12 out of 30. So we're on day 12 and I've already read 12 books, which means I'm still technically one day ahead. I'm like on the line of where I need to be. I've lost my head start because I've had a couple of days where I just haven't had the time to finish a book. But day 12 is not over yet, and I'm hoping to finish one more book at least. I'm going to update you on my current reads. So I'm still reading Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Gottlieb. I'm reading this bit by bit. I think when it comes to non-fiction books, I do tend to read them slower, and I'm just loving this. It has made me very, very emotional, and it's so late in the year, and yet I think I found another one of my all-time favorites for this year. I'm speaking a bit early because I know I've got like 100 pages left, so I've actually still got a whole quarter of this book left, but it's just emotionally wrecking me. It's telling me things that I needed to hear, but it's also telling me things that I can go and tell other people in my life that they need to hear. Sometimes when you read a book where it's non-fiction and it's self-help, it feels like it's really telling you things in a very forceful way, but this I don't think I would classify it as self-help. I would classify it as memoir, but there's enough that I'm taking away from it that sometimes it feels like I'm reading a self-help book. I really recommended it to my bestie, and she's gonna read it because she also works in like psychology, computer science psychology, I think that's what it is. So I read the first short story in She and Her Cat by Makoto, Shinkai and Naruki Nagakawa, and this one is translated by Ginny Tapley Takamori. So this, I didn't realize it was a short story collection. It's like 4 interconnected short stories about a woman and her cat, and you can tell that from the title. That's literally what it is. What I did not expect was that you actually also get the point of view of the cat. So even in these short stories, which are interconnected and following characters that you meet in the other stories, you don't only get the person's point of view, you also get the cat's point of view. For some people, that is going to be a massive win. For me, it's not a win at all. I don't tend to get along with animal narratives. I'm just not that kind of animal lover on the level that everybody else is, which is perfectly fine. It just means that I'm just not really connecting to this, but I do think I'm going to finish it because I need to finish some books to keep up with this challenge. But if I wasn't doing this challenge, I don't think I would continue reading. I think I would DNF. Not because it's bad in any which way. I do think it's written in a way where it's not delving that deep into emotions, and I finished the short story. I'm now currently on the second one, and I just didn't really take much away from it. Maybe I'll loop back around to these characters. It's not a finished story, I'm not sure yet, but it's just not tickling my boxes. And then this one, the dust jacket's not on it. Oh no, I want to show the dust jacket. Let me go get it. It's literally right here. So this book, this very little novella, is actually this one, and that is The Pale House Devil by Richard Kadrey. I've read 25 pages, which actually puts me a quarter of the way through, so I'm trying to catch up today basically. And this book is a horror novella, and it's following these 2 characters. One of them is alive and one of them is the undead, and they go around and they do like assassination jobs for people, or stealing jobs for people, and the rule is that the undead person is the one who assassinates and kills the people who are alive, and the detective who's alive assassinates and kills the people who are undead. Now in this world, the undead, I've already established this from 25 pages by the way, the undead are like illegal, they're not supposed to exist, they're hunted down by society, and I love it. I love the undead. I just love the world building that has been established in 25 pages seamlessly. The story has started, but in those 25 pages I've already got such a good grip of the world. I've already got such a good understanding of how the undead work and also how the undead exist and survive in this world. I find these versions of the undead fascinating. I could read a whole novel about them. I've only got 75 pages left. I'm super sad about it. I want to read a whole book set in this world with these 2 characters who are enacting almost as like the best of friends, the way they like work side by side together. I love their friendship, I love their partnership, and I love the world. So I'm already established and happy. And I will say that the writing style in this one is quite devoid of emotion. It's very pulled back, it's very stripped bare, which is not my favourite kind. I'm all for the purple writing, I'm all for the heavily emotive writing. But I don't mind because the world building and the characterization and the dialogue is done so well regardless. I don't need to have a pretty writing style to be able to appreciate it. So I do think I've got the intention, or I've got the impression, I should say, I've got the impression that this story is going to be too short for me for how much I want more from this world. I hope the author is planning to write more. But can't judge too quickly. I'm going to make myself a cup of tea and read some more of this. But of course, in saying I want to have a cup of tea, that means I need to bring out the tea advent calendar, because that's the only way to have a cup of tea on here. I need number 2. Number 2 Hello, where are you? Oh, you're literally right up here. So, let's see what tea is behind door number 2. Ah, a classic. It's called Lazy Days, lemon and ginger. That is a classic tea. You can't go wrong. Taste your tea like a pro. It may be chilly and grey outside, that is true. But this all-natural, gingery, lemony brew will sweep you away to a British summer's day. Homemade lemonade, traditional ginger beer, croquet and Morris dancers. Okay, perhaps a step too far. There is no match for the ginger kick and refreshing lemon in this infusion. Okay, so it sounds good. I think the real test for this tea is going to be the fact that I've had so many different brands of lemon and ginger tea. So let's see how this compares to the best of them. So, lemon and ginger tea. This is a very, very good lemon and ginger tea, but it is also quite unique from the ones that I usually have. I do think the teas I usually drink, like puka, like twining, they tend to go more heavy-handed on the spices. So usually when you drink lemon and ginger tea, the more prevalent flavor that I get is the ginger to give the tea a bit more kick. This is doing something very different. You can definitely still taste the ginger, but I would say that the lemon is the more strong flavor, and it's going for an overall sweet as lemon can be, tea with the ginger underlying it and kind of carrying it with a layer of spice. The lemon is the stronger flavor that's more prevalent here, which to me makes it a softer lemon and ginger than I'm used to. It tastes more closer to the Twinings lemon and ginger than to the puka lemon and ginger, which definitely goes hard on the ginger. This lemon and ginger I think would be really nice if you have a cold. I'm not sure I would drink it if I wanted a lemon and ginger tea on an everyday basis, but if I was sick, this is what I would go to. Right, let's do some reading now. I'm halfway through this little book and I don't want it to finish. I love it too much. I want more. I want this to be a series. I love a good novella, but I just want this to be a full-on book, or for there to be sequel novellas, because this couple, this partnership, they're not even a couple. I don't know why I said the word couple. This partnership that they have going on is too much for me to bear. I love it. I love their friendship. Okay, so it's time to give you a bit of an update. It's day 15, which means we are exactly halfway through the challenge. I'm just so tired. I'm a little bit sick. You can't hear it. I have a cold. I have massive headaches. So I just haven't been 100% myself. I feel like every time I'm vlogging, I'm like, I'm sick, but it's literally true. It's literally true. Anyway, whew. Let's talk about the books and what's been happening. So yesterday I was at Picador New Voices event where they talk about the new debuts they've got coming in the following year, and I heard about so many exciting books that I'm very excited to read next year. I also went to my cousin's dad's birthday party on Sunday. I wanted to talk about the tea that I drank. I know it's been a little while, but I did want to say that it built. I think Tea Pig's tea just needs really long to steep. I thought I gave it enough time to steep, or maybe it just needs drinking build up, because the further I drank that lemon tea that was too sweet, the more the ginger flavor kicked in, either through steeping or just from building up drinking it, and then it was a really good lemon and ginger after that. So I finished reading Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. I don't have much more to say because I was reading like the end bits, so I can't tell you about them. It was just so good. I was an emotional wreck when I finished reading this book, and I have to say the two books this year that have made me the most emotional have both been non-fiction. Then I finished, while I was traveling around this week, my travel book, which I was reading that I mentioned. That is She and Her Cat. It's the short stories. I've already clued you in on what this is about and how I was feeling about it, and I don't have that much more to add. It just really, this was really a case of, this is not the book for me. Don't even think about whether or not I recommend this or not. If you are a cat lover, maybe you will appreciate this, maybe you won't. I find it so hard to tell because I'm just so not a cat lover in that way. I know all of booktube is screaming at me right now, but I'm so not a cat lover in this way that it was impossible for me to really get anything from this book or review it. It was just a case of it's not a book for me at all. I think in one of the short stories the cat became Jesus for a moment, or like symbolic of Jesus. It was a time. I also finished reading Pale House Devil, as I was very close to doing it the last time I updated you. It was like 50 or 25 more pages. It was so good. I just, please, to the people who do book series, just like the book series Goddess, make this a book series. I need it. I want more of this alive and undead detective duo. I love them to pieces. More, please. I thought it was going to be solved too easily, but nope, it still had moments where it went up and down in its solving. I enjoyed it. I had such a good time. It's very short, but it was everything that I needed it to be. I even got used to a writing style that's not necessarily the one that I'm most likely to tend to enjoy. And yesterday, when I was not feeling well enough to film, I read The Center by Ayesha, Manazir, Siddiqi. And this is a book that I'm struggling to put it in a genre. I wouldn't put it in thriller at all, which is what this is said to be. I think I'd put it into literary fiction, maybe, like literary with very dark themes to it. It's a bit of that genre bending situation where you don't really know where to put a book. And The Center is about this center where you can learn a language fluently, incredibly fluently, in 2 weeks. This translator finds out about the center and then goes there, but it might be that something more sinister is happening there, and so she kind of delves into what it could be. I read this in a day, but I don't know how I feel about it. In the beginning, in the first 2/3 of this book, I was racing through it. I liked our main character. I thought she was great. I liked everything that she said. I think the writing style in this is very much tell, not show, which was frustrating me because everything was just being told to me, especially in the beginning, in the first few chapters when we're getting to the point of the center. The author was clearly like, let's get all of this backstory out of the way so we can get to the good bit. So there was quite a bit of tell instead of show. Then I assumed that I knew what was happening. I thought I'd predicted it. I thought it was fairly obvious. The clues were all there. La la la, let me just keep reading. And then we find out what actually is happening at the center, and I was wrong. And I discovered that actually we've got an unlikable main character. You do find out how unlikable she is the further into the book you get. That said, I think this is one of the very few times where we have an unlikable character that I could get behind. The ending was kind of rubbish. It was building to something good, but the ending really disappointed me. And I also think it was a very slow-paced book, like very slow-paced. So for something like this, I just would have wanted the pace to be picked up a bit more, and then I would want the writing to be a bit better, and then I would also want the ending to be different or more conclusive. And then we're on to my current read for today, which is The Changing Man by Tomi, Oyemakinde. If you go in wanting a horror book, you're gonna just be so disappointed. This is more so a mystery where there's a missing child and everybody's pinned it down to being because of this monster, the Changing Man, but maybe there's more going on. And I think as soon as you whittle it down to the fact that it is just, not just a mystery, but it is a high school mystery book for those in the 13 to 15 age category with lightly speculative elements, that's what you're going to be getting. And it took me some time, actually. I've only got about 100 pages of this left. I think it's fine. It's not blowing my mind or anything, and I'm not predicting what the outcome is, but I'm not predicting what the outcome is because I'm not even trying. I'm just reading, and I'm just reading. It's a bit slow moving for what it is, and it does get caught up in the high school drama, which can be fun if you're going into it expecting a high school mystery. So I was finding some of the high school drama a bit tedious. But it's fine, like, it's just fine. It's fine. It's fine. And I'm gonna finish reading it because I'm doing this challenge. But I think I showed you earlier, I was pointing to my headphones. I've switched to audiobook for this, just to be able to do some chores while I'm listening. So I'm listening, I'm sorting out like the massive loads of books that I have all around my room because I've been creating content this week in bits and pieces for TikTok and Instagram, and my room's a mess, and I did some like laundry and stuff. So I'm just gonna keep listening to this. I am so sick. I feel a little bit dead inside. But today is the last day of the vlog. I just want to finish my last day out strong. So I'm going to be doing a lot of sleeping. That's inevitable. Over the last 12 hours, a lot of those have been sleep. But I did finish reading The Changing Man yesterday. And it was okay. I don't really have much more to add. The ending had a lot of action to it. I think people of the age audience might enjoy this, but for me it was just fine. And that's book 17 out of 30. We're going strong. Today's day 16. I've seen yesterday that me and my sis are on episode 4 of Chainsaw Man. It's just baffling and bizarre, and yet I keep watching and keep laughing. So shall continue doing that. Yesterday at 1 AM when I couldn't sleep because I'd been sleeping the whole day, I started reading Disobedient Bodies by Emma Dabiri. This is for non-fiction November. It's a nice little small non-fiction book, and on the front it says reclaim your unruly beauty, and I loved Don't Touch My Hair by Emma Dabiri, and this one is more wide open than that, even though she does look at it a bit from her own Irish black woman perspective, but it's open to just reclaiming your beauty as you are, away from the beauty consumerism and the beauty ideologies that are placed upon us by social media, while simultaneously social media markets freeing yourself from beauty standards. I've only read the preface and half of the introduction so far, but I find it really, really insightful. Emma Dabiri writes very clearly, it's really easy to understand, and the concepts that she's delving into are quite big, wide open ones, but at the same time she brings them down to earth in the very best way. It's just not been a very exciting day, has it? But I finished reading Disobedient Bodies by Emma Dabiri. It was a very short, to the point read, but I think it took me extra long, like the whole day, just because I had to reread bits because my brain's not fully on when I'm ill. So it took me a bit of time to trawl through this. I think actually my favourite part of this was the introduction and the preface. I think I got a lot from that, and I learned a lot about things and perceptions of beauty from this. I have been researching perceptions of beauty for a very long time because of one of the writing projects that I've been loosely working on over the past few years has got to do with concepts of beauty. So actually there was quite a lot in this that I already knew and I already know. There were some interesting tidbits of research and history that I didn't know before, and there are some ideas in this that I think other people are going to find incredibly insightful and valuable if they haven't come across it before. However, I have come across quite a few of these things because I've been actively researching it myself. So it's one of those ones where I'm like, it's very, very good, and I think there's going to be stuff that people can take away from this, but I don't think it's going to be entirely new material to a lot of people who've already been on their body positivity, body normativity, body experience, because there's a lot to unpack even in using the terms body positivity and body normalization. Yes, I don't have many brain cells to give you, but I think this is one that people will take stuff away from it. I took something away from it. Yeah, I need to continue doing what I've been doing all day, which is sleeping, drinking Lemsip, drinking tea, eating strepsils like nobody's business. You know, within moderation, of course. Alright, so I'm still feeling quite ill, if you can't tell from my voice. But I'm gonna end the vlog here. Thanks for joining me. Please also leave the heart with a bandage emoji to wish me well and getting better. I'm still living in a blanket, as you can tell. Okay, thank you. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. The subscribe button if you want to see more. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be updated every time I have a new video. And you know what they say? Onwards and upwards. Excelsior!